Alright, it's been a while since I've done one of the Winsome line or type of games. This is New England Railways. From what I understand, and I only briefly looked, this is sort of a predecessor to Steam that, or Age of Steam or whatever. I got Age of Steam there, not Steam. Anyway, that maybe is a little less polished, but then it got reprinted as an Eagle Games edition. With, you know, the hard board and components that are supposedly superior. The board itself is kind of a little disturbing, especially when you start looking at these chews. These are all in the zero space. You can see it's going to be really hard to fit them on that. That's a common complaint. The lines are kind of tough to see. A lot of stuff like that, which we'll touch on the review when we look at the components themselves. What do we have? Well, we have paper money, of course. These little loan cards, and they run quite high, and that leads me to believe they should be important. I played this two-player, and we barely scratched loans. My wife didn't want to play, didn't want to take out loans, didn't see a need to, and I did, and ended up losing, I think, because of them. I didn't take out very many, but it ended up costing me a little bit of extra income. So I'm very leery on them. We might see a player or so in my playthrough use loans, and try to see if they can get an advantage by bidding things up. Let's talk about the game. It's a very, very simple design, actually. We've got little connections between the trains. Each city has commodities that it wants. Some of the cities, and these are preset, but the commodities that show up are not. They come out of this bag of cubes. Some of the cities start off with commodities. Everybody starts with 10 bucks. Each turn is going to work as follows. Starting with the first player and then going around the board, and that passes each turn. You have the option to acquire loans. And basically you can just take out a loan. You get 10 bucks when you get one of these cards. Great. Next thing that happens is you service loans. Well, that just means you pay 2 bucks per loan that you have, or per 10 bucks of loan you have. And as you can see, the bigger loans have a bigger amount as a reminder on them, just to keep you there. Retire loans, you pay off the loans you have. After you pay your service on them, you have to pay some money. Now, right away, you're paying service loans after you acquire them, so you're not getting any kind of bonus there. You're going to be paying a minimum of 4 bucks on your 10 bucks. That's a high investment cost there, especially when you start looking at how the money ends up being used on the track lays. Discover growth. What's going to happen there is you're going to flip one of these cards, and it tells you where to put a cube or a couple of cubes, usually at least 2, on different city locations. Now, one of the things that some people kind of gripe about is not all of them need come out, but I think it's more important what order they come out in, because these are going to, like in Age of Steam, affect the income that you produce each turn. And some of the other Winsome games follow this kind of design too, if I recall correctly. Link completion. If you bought a railroad, one of these brown things, connection, the turn before, and you didn't produce it, it didn't get completed, it automatically completes at this point. You can use it the next turn. Publicize future. We're going to draw out a bunch of cards to indicate where the next builds are going to be. Now, here, in the two-player game, we were only playing with 1 rail available on each turn. In the 6-player game, it's 5. It's always 1 less than the number of players. And there's a limitation that you can only buy 1 per turn, which is why I don't really think that that a high rate of loans is likely. A player's not going to be able to purchase more track if they take out lots and lots of money. They can still only buy 1 per turn. So this huge stack of loans seems almost superfluous to me. But maybe, again, one player will use that up. Now, After you publicize the future, you go to the auction phase, and this is really the meat of the game where it starts, where you start actually doing stuff. This is why you need the money, right? The rules are not absolutely ironclad, so I just assume what I assume. You're allowed to bid whatever you like on these suckers. First player may want to bid on this first railroad available. All right, he can. He can bid any amount. And you just keep going around until somebody's bid sticks as the highest bid. Now, at the end of the game, and this is what's important, you are going to have a valuation based on all the rail links you have, the value that's listed on them. That's this number here. That doesn't influence directly what you have to pay to build the track, and the cash that you have on hand. Now you're going to make money by delivering these cubes and improving your rail income, just as you would in Age of Steam, or similar to how you would in Age of Steam. When you buy something, what you do after that is you grab a couple of these dice and you roll. And if you get above, well, equal to or above the number on here, you build the track and you put your little choo-choo on the place, New Haven and Hartford. That'll be here. And that indicates that you have a line that people can deliver stuff over. Okay, great. If you roll lower, you're allowed to pay $1 per pip on the die that you want to improve if you want to build it right away. Otherwise, you get it next turn. But sometimes it's important to get a delivery early, perhaps. And after all of these are auctioned, and if any of them don't get auctioned, they get discarded. They never will be built. After all of them are auctioned, and no player can buy more than one, and one player gets screwed every turn at least, then you're allowed to ship commodities. And shipping commodities works as follows. If you didn't buy a rail connection, in player order, you're allowed to ship one commodity. And you take it and you can run it over up to 5 active links to try to get that commodity to a location that wants that commodity. So this is a blue one. It wants to go to these blue locations. I can't deliver it anywhere else. There's another limitation, which I can only deliver it within 5 rail spaces. And then also, if I run into a space that wants it, I have to deliver it there. I can't pass it through someplace that wants it. So I couldn't run down here and then off this way. I would have to drop it off at New Haven. Every rail link that I carry it over gives the player who owns that rail link an extra point of income. Okay, now we come to market changes. We again roll a pair of dice, add 1 to that die, that sum, and divide everybody's income by that amount. That's the amount, the divisor is the amount, truncated, that they are going to lose off their income. So as your income gets high, you start taking this steady depreciation on the amount that you're going to produce each turn. You have to keep delivering new commodities, set up new routes in order to keep your income steady or improve it. Receive income. Everybody gets the cash listed. At the beginning of the game, of course, that's 0. And then the first player shifts to the next place. And of course, when I do the playthrough, I'm going to be playing it where I go counterclockwise instead of clockwise, just to confuse everyone. Right. And like I said, victory conditions. After all of these are gone, and that will not clean out that deck, you add up the amount, the turn that ends, the turn after all of these are played out, you add up your cash and the railroads you own. Highest number wins. Very, very simple. We'll see how it works solo. Auction games sometimes are a little weird that way, but you know, basically you have a value on this. You know that at the end of the game it's going to be worth an amount of cash equal to its number. for you. You also might be able to get more off of it by what effects it has on building. Certain track is just definitely more important than others. Heartland track that nobody has parallels to, that runs through the middle of the board, is potentially very, very valuable. We'll see whether or not that piece of knowledge causes me to go into depth for it. Because essentially what happened was my wife was able to buy up track that she could use effectively, and I had to either use or make smaller deliveries with, and therefore her income became higher. And so there's definitely, you know, a little bit of luck in this though, because you don't know what the order these things are going to come up in. You don't know the order those things are going to come up in. You don't know which little blocks are going to come out and be available for delivery. There's a lot of unknowns in here that you have to manage. All right, let's put this up, and then we'll start playing.